Imagine strapping something to your wrist that looks like a pipe a plumber forgot on the job site. Dark metal, about 8 inches long. A ball on one end. Nobody looks twice at it. But if they knew what was hidden inside that innocent little cylinder, they'd run. Because inside that thing, a lead-weighted Cosh capable of caving in a human skull. Nearly 26 inches of piano wire that could strangle a grown man in under 15 seconds. And a spring-loaded stiletto blade that shoots out with nothing more than a flick of the wrist. 3 ways to kill. One device, strapped to your arm. And here's the part that makes this weapon legendary. Fewer than 30 of them were ever made. This is the McLaglen-Peskett close combat weapon, and this is its story. It's 1941. Britain is bleeding. France, gone, crushed in just 6 weeks. Norway, fallen. Greece, Yugoslavia, the Low Countries, all swallowed whole by the Nazi war machine. From the Arctic Circle all the way down to the Mediterranean, German sentries stood guard over everything. Every bridge, every railway junction, every ammunition dump, every coastal radar station. Thousands of targets, hundreds of thousands of soldiers protecting them. And if Britain's saboteurs were going to get close enough to destroy any of it, those soldiers had to die. Quietly. In London, a brand new organization was being built around that exact problem. The Special Operations Executive, the SOE, was born in July 1940 with one unforgettable order from Winston Churchill himself: set Europe ablaze. That meant sabotage on a massive industrial scale. It meant building resistance networks from scratch in occupied territories. It meant turning ordinary people into trained killers. And when the moment called for it, it meant silent murder. Now here's something people don't think about. Killing a man silently is actually one of the hardest things a soldier can do. A pistol, even a suppressed one, makes noise. Noise travels. Noise wakes people up. Noise gets you caught. A struggle? Even worse. One shout, one shot from the sentry's rifle, and suddenly you've got an entire patrol converging on your position. The kill had to be instant. Silent. Certain. One moment the German soldier is standing at his post, maybe thinking about home, and the next moment he's on the ground. And the SOE operative is already moving toward the target. No alarm. No patrol. Just a body cooling in the dark. The tools available at the time each solved part of the problem, but only part. The Fairbairn Sykes fighting knife. 7.5 inches of razor-sharp double-edged steel. Drive it upward into the kidney or across the throat, and it was over in seconds. But you had to get within arm's reach. And if your first thrust missed, if the sentry turned at the wrong moment, you were now in a brawl with a trained soldier. The garrote, a wire looped around the throat, was silent and deadly. Once it bit into flesh, the victim had maybe 12 seconds of consciousness. No time to scream, no time to fight back, but it only worked from behind. If he heard your footsteps snap a twig, you're standing there holding a piece of wire against a man with a rifle and bayonet. The Cosh, a weighted bludgeon, could drop a man with one blow to the skull. But a strike that didn't land perfectly could leave him dazed, conscious, and able to pull a trigger. Even a clean hit could leave a body groaning or twitching, enough to draw attention from a passing patrol. SOE agents often carried all three. A Fairbairn Sykes on the belt, a garrote in the pocket, a Cosh up the sleeve. But in the chaos of a nighttime operation, fumbling for the right weapon could cost precious seconds, and behind enemy lines, seconds could cost you your life. 2 very different men decided they had the answer. John Peskett was the managing director of Cogswell and Harrison Limited, one of London's most prestigious gunmakers, established back in 1770 on Piccadilly. These craftsmen built fine shotguns for aristocrats. They fulfilled military contracts stretching back generations. They had access to precision manufacturing that almost no other wartime British facility could match. When British intelligence needed something built, something that required absolute precision and total secrecy, Cogswell and Harrison could deliver. His partner was a far more colorful character. Sidney McLaglen, born in 1884, was the brother of Victor McLaglen, the Oscar-winning Hollywood actor. But while Victor conquered the silver screen, Sidney walked a very different path. He styled himself the world jiu-jitsu champion. He wrote combat manuals for commandos and home guards. He claimed service in the Boer War. He toured internationally teaching close-quarters fighting systems. By 1944, he held a commission in the Royal Naval Volunteer Reserve. Now, was he the real deal? His own brother Victor publicly called him an imposter in 1912. Historians have described him as someone whose credentials were, at best, heavily embellished, and at worst, completely fabricated. But someone in British intelligence saw something in his ideas about close-quarters killing, enough to give him a naval commission, and attach his name to a classified weapons project. Together, the master craftsman and the self-invented combat theorist designed something that had never existed before. British Patent GB 559747A, filed on August 12, 1942. Improvements in or relating to close combat weapons. Clinical language. For a brutally simple instrument designed for one purpose, silent killing at intimate range. The finished weapon measured about 8 inches when closed. Extended with the blade deployed, it reached nearly 13 inches. The cylindrical body was finished in dark Parker steel. No shine, no reflection in moonlight. Total weight came to around 550 to 650 grams. Heavy enough to hit hard, light enough to wear on your forearm all night without fatigue. At the top, the Cosh, a heavy ball of cast leaden steel, roughly 1.5 inches in diameter, mounted rotatably on top of the cylinder. Swing it downward against a skull, and that concentrated mass delivered devastating force. But the ball had a second purpose. Rotating it wound and unwound nearly 26 inches of piano wire stored inside. Piano wire, chosen specifically because it has almost zero stretch. It bites into flesh rather than giving way under pressure. One end fixed permanently inside the body. The free end emerged through a small opening near the top, fitted with a ring grip for the operative's finger. To deploy, loosen the set screw beneath the ball. Draw out the wire, loop it around your target's throat, cross your wrists behind their head, and apply force. Done. At the opposite end, the dagger. A 5.5-inch stiletto blade nested inside the hollow body. To deploy, point the weapon downward and shake your wrist. The blade slides out and locks into place with a click. No buttons to fumble with, no levers to pull. It deployed reliably with wet hands, cold hands, bloody hands, and in absolute darkness. The entire weapon attached to the forearm on a heavy web wrist strap. Worn under a jacket sleeve, it was completely invisible to anyone who didn't know to look for it. Now, here's the part the weapon's creators didn't want to hear. The early prototype had serious problems. The ball wasn't heavy enough. The blade, only about 3 inches at first, was too short to guarantee a kill. And the wire spool? Too small. The piano wire kept kinking under tension. A kinked wire under stress is a wire about to snap. And a garrote that snaps in the middle of an operation doesn't just fail. It kills the operative. Peskett's craftsmen went back to work. They enlarged the ball. They extended the blade to a proper 5.5 inches. They redesigned the internal spool to prevent wire failures. But even the improved version had a fundamental problem that no amount of engineering could fix. They only made around 30 of them. 30 weapons, to equip thousands of SOE and OSS agents operating across multiple continents. The math simply didn't work. And by the time the patent was published in early 1944, SOE operatives had already built their trust around proven tools. The Fairbairn Sykes, with its enormous production run. The Welrod suppressed pistol that fired at barely 73 decibels, quieter than a closing door, with confirmed kills from Norway to Burma. Introducing an unfamiliar new weapon mid-war, when agents already had systems that worked, was a hard sell. There's also a darker explanation. A weapon this unique, this obviously designed for assassination, was a liability if discovered. An SOE operative caught by the Gestapo carrying a standard fighting knife might claim to be a soldier. But carrying a McLaglen-Peskett on your wrist? That was a death sentence before the interrogation even started. When SOE was formally disbanded in January 1946, its weapons scattered. Sidney McLaglen died in Devon in 1951, his wartime contributions largely forgotten. His brother Victor kept making Hollywood films until 1959. John Peskett eventually repurchased Cogswell and Harrison in 1963 and remained there well into the mid-1960s. The firm still operates today, though they no longer manufacture assassination devices for British intelligence. As for the weapon itself, in late 2022, an early prototype sold at auction for just over $1,000. Marked production versions today list between $5,000 and $8,000 from specialist dealers. With only around 30 ever made and an unknown number surviving, an authentic McLaglen-Peskett is among the rarest Second World War weapons on the planet. No confirmed operational kills, no mission logs, no veteran memoirs mentioning it in the field. 8 inches of dark metal, 3 ways to kill, fewer than 30 ever made, and as far as anyone can prove, not a single life taken. But that doesn't make it any less extraordinary. The McLaglen-Peskett is proof of what happens when a nation fights with its back against the wall. When engineers and rogue combat theorists sit down together and ask a question most people would never dare to ask. How do we make killing completely invisible? Britain's answer was strapped to a wrist and hidden under a sleeve. And if you found that story as fascinating as I did, smash that like button right now. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who love deep dives like this one. Subscribe if you haven't already. We cover the weapons, the operations, and the secret history that most channels never touch. And drop a comment below. Where in the world are you watching from? I want to see how far this reaches. We'll see you in the next one.